here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned. Immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's the turn of the American singer, songwriter, musician, producer, and also podcast host. It's the one and only Ben Vaughn, who I spoke to find out more about life, love, poetry, and all the other groovy stuff. Has had a very long and interesting life in music, starting with the Ben Vaughn Combo in the early 80s, then dropped the combo part and just became Ben Vaughn. Very lucrative 90s. Has continued to release albums and has recently started a podcast. Yay! Titled Straight from the Hat with Ben Vaughn. I will put a link in the notes below so you'll be able to click on it, listen, subscribe, and all that other groovy stuff. So anyway, this is the interview. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Ben, it's over to you.
Oh wow, goes back much further than that.
Yes.
When I was 6 years old, my uncle worked at RCA Victor. I grew up in Camden, New Jersey, which was basically owned by RCA Victor, the Victor Company, the Victor Talking Machine Company, which was then bought by RCA. They had like 35 buildings in Camden. Everybody on both sides of my family worked for that company. It was a company town.
Right.
And my uncle worked there. And at the end of his shift, where you punch out your time card, they would have a free box of records. And he grabbed a Duane Eddy album, Twistin' and Twangin', 1962 this would be, and gave it to me. And it was the first record I ever owned. And I listened to it over and over and over again. I would just stare at it as it went around and just listen to it and look at the album cover for like an entire year, you know? So
yes, it was that time, wasn't it? We used to do that.
Yeah, and I was a rock and roll fanatic immediately. And then, of course, like I started listening to the radio at that time, and Surfin' Bird was a big hit back then, and that became my favorite record. So before the Beatles, I was already a rock and roll fanatic.
Yes, blimey, that was very, yes, you were the ideal generation, really, weren't you, to start experiencing. You were born in was it 56 or 55?
55, the same year that rock and roll was born. So I feel that there's a connection to that.
Yes, well, absolutely.
I was born, me and rock and roll were born the same year. So I take that seriously because I feel it going through, running through my body. So it must be true,
Yes. And
I'm not going to question it.
Well, absolutely. And what was your sort of musical instrument that you sort of picked up at the early phase of life?
Well, I started out as a drummer, and I played in bands starting at 12 years old, playing at dances and everything. And they would let me get up from behind the drum kit to sing one song, which was a song called Wine, Wine, Wine by the Nightcaps.
Right.
You get a nickel, I'll get a dime. We'll go out and buy some wine, drinking wine, wine, wine.
You must have looked very cute then.
Well, everybody thought it was really funny that a 12-year-old kid was singing about getting drunk.
Yes, at least it wasn't cocaine, though, was.
No, yeah, by J.J. Cale, right? Yeah, that's just true. Alcohol was legal.
Yes.
So I started performing, when I was very young, and I've been performing ever since. But I learned how to play guitar probably when I was about 14 because I wanted to learn how to write songs. And that put me on a path to being a songwriter and a guitar player.
Because you were at that age, were you just a bit too young to sort of take in that sort of late 60s summer of love, hippiedom, Woodstock, or were you kind of conscious of it at that point in your life? Because you would have been about 15, 16 when the 60s came to a rather crashing end, really.
Well, it didn't end as quickly as historians would like you to believe. The hippie dream lingered on until probably about 1974 or 75. That's why glam rock was so important, and punk rock. In America, though, like when I was 15, That would have been 1970, and
Yes.
I was in love with the Stooges and MC5, perfect for a rebellious kid who with long hair who, was being harassed by everybody. And of course, I didn't want to be in school. I didn't I didn't trust anything older people told me, and I listened to Funhouse by the Stooges, and it was, my language. I found my people when I heard that record.
Yes. Were you ever sort of worried with Vietnam in the sort of rumbling in the background, or just rumbling
Oh yeah.
everywhere? Were you worried about being potentially drafted at this stage? Because obviously that was,
Oh yeah,
still.
yeah. When I graduated high school in 1973, and leading up to that, I had plans to go to Canada. There was a movement of people in the Philadelphia area, a resistance movement where they would help people move to Canada to avoid the draft. And what happened is they stopped the draft when I turned 18, 1973.
Good timing. That was very good timing.
Perfect timing, because people only a year or two older than me from my neighborhood went to Vietnam and came back in bad shape,
Yes,
because they were drafting working class kids who weren't going to college, and that was my neighborhood. So a lot of I mean, there are a lot of stories about some people in my neighborhood that went over to Vietnam and Cambodia too. And
yes.
I was next, because I wasn't going to go to college, and I had plans to go to Canada, and boom, the draft stopped. So I lucked out.
So when you were talking about the Stooges and MC5 and the sort of more sort of punky side, did the death of people like Morrison, Joplin, Hendrix, did that sort of register much on your radar, or was that not music that
Oh,
you
it
would?
did. It did. I liked everything back then, but I really felt that the Stooges and the MC5 and the whole Ann Arbor, Detroit rock and roll, that whole thing. There was something about it. It was militant, even though the Stooges were not political. It felt political when you listened to them, because just the energy was like, yeah.
Yes. There was it
Um,
was it was not fluffy, was it? It wasn't sort of psychedelic. It was quite It was quite, yes,
yeah, it
rock
was
and roll.
great.
It was good.
It was really great.
So did you then pick up on bands like the New York Dolls and then Johnny Thunders and sort of the early punk period as well at that point?
I did. Uh, I really liked the Flamin' Groovies, and I really liked the New York Dolls, MC5, the Stooges. I was a big Velvet Underground fan. They broke up by that time, but I don't know why that stuff really appealed to me. It was not on the radio. You had to seek it out.
Yes,
You
well, I would
couldn't you
imagine.
couldn't.
Yes, it was. I don't think they sold a lot of copies, did they, at that time? It's
Yeah,
just,
you had to go. You basically had to go to a record store where somebody with good taste was playing records at the record store, because the radio did not play the Stooges. I never heard them on the radio, I don't think, ever back then.
no, I wouldn't have thought. I don't think they were playing sort of Heroin by Velvet Underground, were they? That wasn't one of their
No, they
chart
were not.
band afternoon.
They were playing
on.
Grand Funk Railroad and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Jethro Tull, you
Oh,
know?
yes, and I suppose, yes, with a dollop of the Eagles. Did you get into that singer sort? Because in the UK there was that birth of, like, there was glam, but there was also heavy metal with Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and then there was the kind of prog period as well, wasn't there? With the bands like Yes, Genesis, Wishbone Ash, and that was what did that sort of feel? Because I know Jethro Tull gets slightly put into that category, which is fair enough. But
Well,
did you get in? Did you become aware of the musicianship of those people and the rather
I didn't I
conceptual
didn't pay much.
ideas?
Yeah, I didn't pay much attention to it, because I grew up in Philly soul was, like I grew up in an environment where black music was really, really big. It was almost like the only music sometimes. People still danced, listened to soul music and R&B and doo-wop and everything. And so Jethro Tull, it was hard for me to relate, or Emerson, Lake and Palmer, or prog rock just went right over my head, because I knew I could never play it. I could practice guitar my entire life and never be able to play that stuff. It's too complicated, and I um, I really like soul music and blues and stuff like that. So it was kind of over there somewhere. I knew it was going on,
Yes.
and I had friends who were really into it, but I couldn't really relate to it.
Because I think was David Bowie. He did his Young Americans, didn't he, in Philadelphia? Or
Mhm.
he certainly used Luther Vandross and Ava Cherry and various other sort of backing singers at that stage, didn't he? From
Oh no, that was recorded in Philadelphia. A friend of mine was one of the girls who would hang around there every day. The
fantastic.
the Bowie kids.
Yes.
She runs a bar in Philadelphia now, and she was one of the Bowie kids.
Who was there? My God, that must have been, yes, it must have been very groovy. Then did you then sort of get into the wonderful world of like Studio 54, or is it 54? And disco. Did disco slightly sort of, and the Bee Gees, did that sort of come onto your radar as well? Oh, you're frozen. Don't freeze. That's just a drastic thing to have happened. So you were just talking about Philly soul. Did you then get into the world of like disco, Studio 54, and sort of yacht rock? Did as the 70s progressed? Because there was that kind of scene that was going on. I was just kind of curious how you navigated from mid 70s to the late 70s.
Well, uh, I really like disco. I never had a problem with it. It was kind of invented in Philadelphia. "The Love I Lost" by Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes is considered the first song to ever have that beat. That was Earl Young on drums, and we were very proud of the music coming out of Philly, the soul music coming out of Philly. The Delphonics, the Intruders, the Soul Survivors, Teddy Pendergrass. The OJs were from Cleveland, I think, and I think they moved to Philly to be near Gamble and Huff and make music. So we were really into it and we were really proud. So when it moved over to more dance floor oriented with the drums up louder,
Yes.
we were all for it, and it's so danceable. I mean, I that stuff. But then when punk came, my friends were telling me, "You gotta pick one or the other. You either gotta like punk or like disco. You can't like both." And I'm like, "They're both great. You're out of your minds." I also really loved outlaw country. I was really into Willie Nelson and and Waylon Jennings, so I was musically all over the place.
Well, yes. We love Waylon Jennings. That's amazing. Yes. So what did you do then after college or school at that point? Because you said was it 74 that you graduated?
I graduated high school in 1973. I did not go to college. I went to work in a knitting mill. I went right into like in my neighborhood, very few people went to college. You basically got a job where your dad worked, you know.
Right.
So I went to work in this knitting mill for a
My God,
while, and
this is
then
like a Bruce Springsteen song, aren't you, at this point?
well, I am definitely from New Jersey, and there are a lot of similarities. I remember Bruce before he was a singer-songwriter. He was a hot guitar player that we all knew about, and he was in the local bar scene, and we knew about Bruce. And I saw him play back when he had long hair and was doing like hippie music. But
Yes.
I don't really remember. A friend of mine tells me that we saw him play like in 1970 or 71, but I don't really recall. I remember the event, and I remember there were a lot of bands playing, and they all kind of sounded like Grand Funk Railroad, and I think his band was one of them, maybe.
Right.
But
Yes.
but yeah, I got out of high school, went to work in a factory, a knitting mill, and then I drifted for a while. I did some traveling around like a hippie. And but at age 20, I became a father, and from that point on, I was working 2 jobs most of the time
Right.
and trying to keep that situation going, and a lot of responsibility for a young dude, but, I was up for it, and my music career, um, I was playing in bands when I could, where I could, bar bands, maybe playing in coffee houses and things like that, and around in the early 80s, I got divorced, and all of a sudden, I had a lot of time on my hands, And that was when I kicked off my recording career,
Right. This is where you got
my
your
music
band
career.
together.
Yeah, 1983. I started the Ben Vaughn Combo, and we got a record deal and toured, constantly toured, and yeah. But my songwriting.
Because we had kind of, just on that kind of political front, during the 70s, the UK was always kind of changing governments. We were having lots of strikes. There wasn't a huge amount of money, the 3-day week. It was all very grim, really. And then we sort of 79, we had Margaret Thatcher. You kind of went from Jimmy Carter to Ronald Reagan. Did that make much of a difference to kind of you and the environment at that stage? I just wondered if, because there was kind of the MTV world, and then suddenly, America becomes supercharged. Everyone's got big biceps, haven't they? And it's just suddenly comes out with Rocky, Bruce Willis, those sort of Sylvester Stallone kind of, I don't know, what was the one where he's walking around with his, oh God, Rambo, that's right. Everything gets got a bit, and then Bruce, 85, born in the USA, and it's all a bit, the production all changes. I just wondered, I've gone from politics to studio production, but how did that kind of affect you as a sort of an artist at this stage? Did it feel optimistic?
It affected me because when I was recording my first album, it was 1985, and it was the year that Born in the USA came out. And I remember this distinctly because we were in the studio recording, and Born in the USA comes out, and all of a sudden everybody thought that our drums needed to be louder and bigger overnight. And a shift was made in the way we engineered the record. I went along with it because I didn't know any better. I wasn't producing myself yet. I was being produced by Mark Van Hecke, who produced the Violent Femmes.
Oh,
And
nice.
I just believed, since his name is on a record and he produced the Violent Femmes, he knows more than I do. I'm gonna go with this. And it was decided overnight, okay, it's a whole different ballgame now. The snare drum needs to be like right in your face.
Well,
And
yes.
so if you hear my first album, the snare drum is the lead instrument. I'm in there somewhere singing.
So you had
It's a good sounding record.
this is Lonesome Bob on drums. So
Yeah.
did he go with this? Was he kind of happy with this kind of development?
Hey, we were happy to have a record deal. We were happy that anyone liked us, because Bob and I grew up together. We grew up in New Jersey together, and we both were just happy that somebody in New York knew our name, because we were, I was working in obscurity until I was like, I was 30 years old when I was making that first record, so that's a lot of years being unknown.
Yes.
So I went along with a lot of stuff because I couldn't believe it was finally happening. Like, managers and publishers and booking agents and record labels were interested in me. So I went along in the beginning with everything they suggested because they know how to do this stuff. I'm just a guy from New Jersey who was writing songs, and I was cutting lawns. I was a landscaper when I got my record deal. And I didn't quit my job as a landscaper for a while because I didn't trust that being in the record business was going to, uh, be full time. And so I was like playing gigs and then coming home. Like, I would do a gig in New York and leave New York City at 3 o'clock in the morning and go right to my job the next day and cut lawns all day. That happened for like the first couple years of my career.
Well, yes, absolutely.
So
And did MTV sort of play a part in that development as well at that stage?
yeah, it did. We ended up. I made 2 videos that are not too embarrassing to watch now. I think they teased my hair for the second one.
Yes, I was going to say the mullet was it's just not good, is it? It doesn't wear well, does it?
I
Really?
didn't have a mullet, but it was definitely, there was a style. There was a woman on the set who kept, every time we weren't shooting, she just kept touching my hair, and I was trying to push her away. I remember that much. And it's a record business, image and the music, and they're trying to figure out how to market you and make money. Their job is to make money.
Yes.
And so I I sympathize with that, like any business. What do we need to do to make money? And if you have a band or a recording artist, you think about what marketing strategies are working, who is successful, and then try to do a little bit of that with everybody.
Yeah, well,
So some
absolutely.
some of the suggestions are really ridiculous and funny, and photo shoots were really important. All I wanted to do was make music. I wanted people to hear my songs because I thought not only did I think I had something to say, I thought I might be able to like make somebody's life a little bit fuller. My favorite songwriters are people like John Prine and Jonathan Richman and uh, people like that, Willie Nelson.
Yes.
And my life is better because of their songs. And I thought, wow, I would like to be part of that tradition. So I just wanted to make music and share that music and communicate, through art, an idea or an emotion and make people laugh. I really like Jonathan Richman, very, very funny, but also very deep. I wanted to do that. And along with that came a record deal, which means you have to pose for photographs and lip sync in a video and do
Wow.
stuff that doesn't feel like music, really.
So when you came to do the second album, Beautiful Thing, you got on to more of a major label with Restless Records, which was part of Enigma.
Yeah, yeah.
Did that mean a change of sort of management or change of ideas at that stage?
Well, what happened then is I left my manager. I was managing myself and I started producing myself. So that was the beginning of me being independent. And that record is a reaction to the large sounding first record, the Born in the USA inspired first record. And I went a little too far, and it's a small sounding record. So, I was in reaction. I didn't like what was going on. So I'm like, I'm going to make my own record. I'm going to produce my own record, and I'm not going to make it big because everybody's doing that. And I saw, I could envision that in the future, that kind of record production was going to sound stupid. I knew it was of the time to have the snare drum that loud.
Yes. I
And
know. I must admit, there's bands like I know everyone loves Talk, but I find the production just makes me feel sort of uneasy. Really, I just don't. I just think
so,
I
yeah,
just find it's like I'm sure he's talented, but I just wish that. And David Bowie had a couple of albums where they've kind of remixed some of the songs. You think, oh, that's a little bit better, but it was like, God, why did you do that? It's just that whole
yeah.
I'm sure there's some good
Uh,
stuff. And when then people have re-recorded it for sort of unplugged or just a live version without that production, you think, oh, this isn't a bad song, but it still makes me feel quite queasy. And I just find myself thinking, no, I'm back in
that's
the
how I
80s with
felt.
a mullet and it's all a bit, no, it's, because I was an indie pop kid in the 80s. So it was all, bands like the Smiths I loved. And then there was the Cure, the Cult, all that kind of more of an earthy sound, but also it wasn't felt so mainstream because the mainstream was so in your face and it felt
Right.
so
Yeah.
over, you know, the hair was big, the collars were big. It was all just, it was just, it just didn't have that authenticity. People weren't singing about things that I could relate to as a younger person. And it was easy, and then you looked at hair metal, because I quite liked heavy metal in the 70s in Britain, like Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, and Motorhead. But that hair metal stuff is like, my God, what have you done, Bon Jovi? And he's such a nice guy, but at the time, it just felt like, blimey, and David Lee Roth, all that kind of, wow, that you must have found that quite strange, actually being part of the industry and having that around you at the same time.
I didn't pay attention to much. I was still listening to old blues records and country records, bluegrass, jazz, and old Kinks records. I
Oh,
love the Kinks. Ray Davies is one of my favorite writers ever. So I
yes.
was I was not paying attention to what was popular. Even though I was in the record business, I was not paying attention. I wasn't paying attention to alternative rock or indie rock either. Like I wasn't really even aware of REM. or U2. I was really not aware. I was in my own vacuum, writing my songs for myself and for an imagined audience of people who would be able to relate to my vision. But I wasn't listening to the radio. I didn't own a TV, so I never saw MTV. I never saw
No.
it. I didn't own a TV. And I was on tour a lot, and I was focused on my own music and focused on the past, like Leadbelly, you know, uh, or Johnny Cash, or Miles Davis and stuff like that. Dolly Parton. I was like obsessed with the old Dolly Parton records.
Yes,
So I
absolutely.
missed out. A lot of times, a song will come on somewhere, and everybody in the room will start singing along to it. And I realize I have no idea what this song is. I guess it was a hit. I'm assuming
Yes.
it was a hit because everyone in this room, they're getting sentimental and they know every word.
Yes. Wow,
And I'm hearing
absolutely.
it for the first time. And whenever I tell people, I don't even know what this song, like I went to see a Tom Petty cover band. A friend of mine was playing in a Tom Petty cover band. So I went and I realized I didn't recognize any of the songs. I recognized maybe 4 songs. I don't even know Tom Petty's songs. I'm really out of the loop. And a friend of mine did not believe me. He goes, "You know this song. Come on. You gotta know this song." And I'm like, "No, I never heard it before. This is brand new to me." Yeah.
Yes, wow, absolutely. It's quite
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it, really? Yeah. So what made you then have a bit of a change after those first two albums as the Ben Vaughn Combo to just being Ben Vaughn? What happened to the combo part? Did you have a major shift of direction?
Money. We weren't making money, and so being a band, um, was not, viable anymore. Those guys were like, "Look, we've been doing this for 5 years and we're broke, so we're gonna go get jobs, and, good luck, Ben." So I went on my own. It was a mutual decision. We were moving sideways in the business. The money wasn't getting bigger,
Yes.
and we were on tour constantly, and the guys in the band missed being home. They missed their loved ones. And so, I was catapulted into the world of a solo artist and, stayed on the road for, like, another probably 3 or 4 years and, kept making records.
Yes. And
So
did you come
economics
to
is
Europe at that stage as well? Did you start to sort of
I
come
I
further
started coming
afield?
over there. 1988 was the first time I played in France. I played at the Transmusicale Festival in France, and then I did a tour in '89 where I played in, Madrid, and, I played in Spain and Italy. I played at the, Borderline in London,
Right.
and, came back a few more times and played in London at the 12 Bar Club. Um, and I think I opened for somebody in some larger place, but, I have a fan base in Spain and in France, a very, very loyal fan base, so and Italy. So I've been going over and touring over there whenever they invite me over and it makes sense with my schedule. Because a lot of times what they'll do is a big festival will want me to be on the bill, and so I'll accept that festival date and then build a bunch of shows around it in clubs,
Right. Yes, it's
and,
interesting.
yeah,
I was going to
yeah, so
say
that's
because
been
there's quite a few English, British bands who, are just, they've got no following in the UK, but they'll be big in Italy or they could be big in Spain. They got people who'll sort of
yeah,
fund their next project because they just love some very rich person just says, "Well, I love your work," and it's not going to be much to me to give you the cash to do it. So off you go. So it's a really nice story, but it's quite interesting how some bands say, well, we'll do the album, we'll do the tour, dates in Europe. No, there's just nothing to do in the UK, so we're not going to bother because we'll only get 10 people turn up, so that's not worth our time. But, we're happy, with that arrangement. So it's great that you've got your sort of the Italy and Spain one, because I found that some places like, oh no, Germany likes us, or, Holland likes us, or Belgium. But yes, I think the Italians love the sensitive singer-songwriter, don't they?
Oh, they sing along. I've met people who claim that they learned how to speak English by listening to my records. Because I enunciate, like when I sing, you can understand every word. Like Lou Reed would be the same kind of singer where you can really hear every word. You're never wondering what a lyric is on a Lou Reed record. You can always hear exactly what the words are, and I'm that way too. Jonathan Richman, people like that. Um,
Yes.
I love it. I love it over there. I've been going over there since the late '80s, and Spain is a really great place to be popular. France is a really great place to be popular. I have a ball when I go there. Audiences are great, and the lifestyle is really great. I love it. I love it.
Well, yes. So then, sort of that late 80s, early 90s, you did, was it 3 albums quite quickly? Blows Your Mind, Dressed in Black, and Mono. Were
Probably
they just
over a 4-year period, probably, I
over a
think it's
4 year
probably.
period? So you were very prolific at that stage. So then, after, from the mid 90s, then, did you relocate at this point back to LA or back going to LA?
I left New Jersey in 1995, and I drove across the country in a very old car, and I landed in LA, and I was looking for work as a film composer. And right when I landed, and the funny thing is, when I was 15 years old, I decided I wanted to master surf guitar. I wanted and nobody liked surf guitar at that time. We're talking Crosby, Stills and Nash and Aqualung. Oh, these are the things that are huge, and I'm over there trying to, and I wanted to perfect it, and I wanted to write guitar instrumentals. I was obsessed with it, and there was no value in the market for that sound at all. No value at all. So, like when I would join bands, they wouldn't let me play that stuff because it ruined everything, because nobody wanted it. And but I was just it was a language that I wanted to be fluent in, but it was a dead language. And in 1994, the summer of 1994, Quentin Tarantino put Miserlou by Dick Dale in Pulp Fiction, and it changed everything. Overnight, every Hollywood producer and director wanted that sound. So I hopped in my guitar and I drove to LA because I have that sound. I was fluent in
Yes.
it and I know how to write in it. So I landed in LA with the right talent in the right week almost, the right day. I couldn't have the timing could not have been better.
Blimey. So you were
And
you were a gun for hire then? Did you just kind of start
yeah,
appearing on everyone's record? Yeah, because John Peel, who was this great DJ in the UK from the sort of late 60s right through, I mean, he used to love Dick Dale, actually. That's where I first sort of, would hear the latest Dick Dale record. He'd always be sort of throwing it on, spinning it. So, yes. But yes, it was very niche at the same time, wasn't it?
yeah. And what happened is within 3 months of moving to LA, I was offered a TV show, a network TV show, and that show became a hit. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to stay in LA.
Okay. Was that
This is,
Third Rock from the Sun?
yeah, yeah.
Right, and then you just hit Men Behaving Badly, Normal, Ohio, Grounded for Life. You were
And
just,
that '70s show.
you were just on. Was it just easy living? Was it good? Was it the good times at this stage in life?
It was a lot of work. It was the deadlines were murder. I was working constantly. I didn't really have a personal life because I was just working and working. At one point, what happened is in Hollywood, you're encouraged if you're hot. I got hot, and my agent said, "Well, you have to accept everything. Every job that is offered to you, accept it because you're hot now and you may not be hot later." So
Yes.
I took on three. At one point, I was doing three TV shows at the same time, which is not a good idea because you have no personal life at that point, and you're just working and working and working. And so I overdid it. I was encouraged to overdo it, and I went along with it. I was like, "Yeah,
It's good.
they may be right. I could be very cold tomorrow. I'm hot
Well,
now.
absolutely. Did you used to get
Yeah.
that
So
call? Did you get the occasional call at sort of a strange times to come to the studio to do something because things were going desperate? I asked that because I did a really great interview with a guy who was in a band called David and David. He was one of the Davids. And it would be like, could you just come to the studio now? You know, it was like midnight, all the musicians there, it's going wrong. And they said, could you just write a track as an 18-year-old lesbian who's in love with a woman who doesn't love her? You know, we've got 6 hours. Could you do that? And he would say, okay, I'll give it a go if, and it's just hilarious stories he had, like, people who were just like, please, we've got to do this. Did you have those kind of experiences? I'm not saying you had to write a song like that, but it was like, nothing's happening. You're our last bet, and we're gonna
no,
play.
no. When I first got to town, I was a session guitar player, and I played surf guitar on a lot of movie soundtracks. I don't even know the names of the movies, but every now and then, if I'm watching TV at 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear my guitar playing, and I'm like, oh, I guess I did that. I don't know. I was working so much that I don't even really remember everything I played on. But once the TV shows became hits, I specifically, I worked only on that stuff. I didn't have time to perform or even make records. And I did that for 11 years.
Yes. And did you do an album with Kim Fowley, Kings of
I
Saturday
did.
Night? So how did that
I
come
did.
out? Obviously, he's a little bit of an interesting character, isn't he? With
Well,
Rodney Bingenheim.
well, the my Kim Valley story is pretty interesting. We actually are. I think we're going to talk about him in the podcast. I think his name comes out of the hat at some point.
Well, yes.
We've recorded 12 episodes of our podcast, and the idea behind the podcast is my co-host pulls a name out of the hat and reads it to me, and then I talk about that person.
Nice.
And I've worked with a lot of people. A lot of people. I've either met or worked with a lot of people. And my co-host, she's like 30, I don't know, 5 years younger than me or more. But her record collection is exactly like mine, all older artists, Lee Hazelwood, Nancy Sinatra, country music, bossa nova, Rod McEwen, Bob Lynn, you know.
Excellent.
And so the way the podcast started is I started telling her stories about meeting these people and working with them, because most of them are not alive anymore. Most of the people, you know, in my record collection are no longer alive. And I had the good luck to meet a lot of these people and work with them. And we decided we were going to record a demo of her pulling the names out of the hat.
Right.
No preparation, just randomly pulling them out. And she would read that name to me, and then I would talk about it. And I believe we recorded a Kim Fowley segment. And the way I met Kim Fowley is when I was about 16 years old, I found a record by Kim Fowley called I'm Bad. And it had a picture of him on the cover with these crazy eyes. He looked like Charles Manson. So I bought the record. And on the back cover, it was a crazy record. He's like screaming and yelling over a band that kind of sounds like Steppenwolf or something. It's kind of a wild record. And he, on the back cover, is said, "Who are you? Kim Fowley wants to know. Write me a letter. Tell me who you are." So I wrote a letter to him. And this will be 1971, 72. And I said, I told him who I was, and I was in a band, and that I, wanted to be, a rock star or whatever I said. I'm 16. He wrote me back, and he said, "Quit high school, get on a bus, come to Hollywood, and I will make you a star."
Right.
And I was like, this sounds very suspicious to me. I am not going to do this.
Yes, this is the day before DBS checks, really, wasn't it? The Jimmy Savile thing. So anyway,
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah. I didn't know what was going on there, but we remained in contact for a couple of years, writing to each other. And when I got a record deal, 1986 or whatever it was. The first time I played in Hollywood, I played a club. And after the sound check, this beautiful Sunset Strip looking rock and roll chick comes up and hands me a letter. And she says, "This is from Kim Fowley." So I open it up and he says, "You should have came out to Hollywood when I told you to. You would be twice as big right now and have a better record deal. Call me. Let's hang out." So I called the number and I got together with Kim, and then we rekindled our relationship, and it eventually led to us making a record together. He was nuts. He was really, really nuts, and he stayed up all night. He slept all day and stayed up all night. And you had to hang out with him on his clock, not your own clock. So he was very eccentric, one of the most intelligent, funny people I've ever worked with, and a wild man, really, you know.
Yes,
But
like art.
I didn't really hang out with him socially. Like I never went out to clubs or bars with him. We would just write songs together or do music things together. I never really became friends with him. It was a I don't know, kind of like a music lovers uh connection, you know.
Yes. And how did Kings of Saturday Night go down?
How was it received?
Yes.
Oh, uh it got some pretty good reviews when it came out, but the record label was very small, so it didn't get distributed properly.
Yes. So just before we get to the podcast then, so this is like the 90s, how do you then navigate, because music kind of shifts quite a lot during that decade. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Woodstock 99, but it finishes on a bit of a
No,
weekend
I have never.
in
I
hell. And obviously
I
all those bands, slightly, that's the end of them, and music changes again. So I don't know how it was for you again.
I hardly even saw Woodstock 69. Um, I never really paid attention, you know. I don't really. I'm like I said before, you know. I'm living in a vortex of is there a Leadbelly song I've never heard? Is there a Lee Hazelwood record I have yet to hear? I'm always searching and trying to understand. There is so much music out there that I haven't heard yet, you know. Uh, so I'm a historian, and my natural love for music is mostly from an era that is not here anymore. So like Woodstock 99 or any of those bands, like I still don't think I've ever heard. I think I've only heard one song by Nirvana, maybe.
Maybe.
Uh, yeah, the one about the, I don't even know what it's called. Um, no, I'm really living in a different world.
Yes. So then
And
I was going to just say, you obviously are continuously writing and recording and releasing music, up to sort of the world of Ben Vaughn, which was in 22. So then from that, do you then sort of have a side hustle that continues parallel to that? Or are you able to keep yourself going with your sort of releasing albums and doing touring?
well, I mean, the amount of money that I made when I was a TV composer gives me the freedom to do whatever I want now. So I hit the lottery, and you know, I live very cheaply, but I do whatever I want purely for artistic reasons. I never do anything for money ever. I never think about the money when I do anything. You know, like I have a syndicated radio show in America, and I'm on 19 stations, and I don't get paid for it. I do it for free
Right.
because I don't want anyone to make any suggestions about my playlist. If I'm giving them the show for free, they can't make any suggestions. You know what I mean? Like if they're paying me, I got to listen to them, you know. And so whenever anybody's paying you, you have to listen to their ideas.
Yes.
And
That's
I
annoying, isn't it? Do you
well,
do
I
you
promise
do you do your radio station in the studio at your house?
I do. I
Nice.
do. I actually. right here.
There it is.
Yeah. Here's my microphone here, and my turntables are over there. Yeah.
God,
Yeah,
it's a perfect existence, basically, isn't it, really? I did notice
Yeah.
that you, about a decade ago, you did a couple of records on Shoeshine Records, a label that I came across when they released Laura Cantrell, a couple of her albums. How did you sort of find yourself doing, you did Glasgow Time and A Date with Ben Vaughn. How did that sort of come about? Or did they just sort of knock on your door and say, we'd love to work with you?
Well, that came about because I put out a 45 in 1985 called My First Band. And unbeknownst to me, it was a hit in the dance clubs in Glasgow and Edinburgh. They would play that 45 along with Northern Soul stuff and garage rock, and it was a popular song. So this was before the internet, so I never heard about any of this. I never knew that the people in Scotland ever even heard my music, much less liked it. And Alex Chilton, I was friends with Alex Chilton, and he called me up and said, I just got back from Scotland, and I played some gigs with Francis McDonald from Teenage Fan Club.
Yes.
And we had a really good time, and we did some recording and everything. And he asked me if he said, is Ben Vaughn still alive? and Alex said, yes, very, very much so. So they asked if they could get my phone number. So Alex called me up, to get my permission. And I said, yeah, have him call me. Yeah. And Francis brought me over for a tour, and we went into the studio to record. He put together a really good band for me. Stevie Jackson from Bell and Sebastian on bass.
Fantastic.
And we played a bunch of shows in Scotland and recorded an album. And then I came back once or twice after that too.
Nice. That's right. What was the track that was a big hit in the clubs? Do you say?
My First Band.
My First Band. Oh, I'll have
It's a 45 that came out on a label called Telstar Records in America, and then it was reissued by a label called 53rd and Third.
Oh yes, they had the Shop Assistants and various other obscure indie bands from that period.
Yeah, they re-released it, and I didn't even know about that. I didn't even know that record. I didn't even know that record existed until I was in Scotland, and somebody asked me to autograph it.
Right, because you did an album with Alex and Alan Vega at one stage as well, didn't you? Cubist Blues.
Yeah. Well, I was friends with both of those guys, and we went into the studio probably 1994, maybe around there, and decided to record almost like a jazz record where you have like, Count Basie. Well, not like I'm trying to think of who. A lot of jazz records you see 2 or 3 names on there, and it's just a session.
Yes.
And the people come in with their talent, and then you push record, and then whatever happens. And we decided we wanted to do a record kind of like that, except that we weren't going to plan what it was going to sound like. We weren't going to talk about anything. We were just going to push record, and then either I would start playing or Alex would start playing, and then Alan would start singing, and that would be the next piece of music. So it's completely improvised, that record.
Nice. My God, that must be just brilliant having those projects to work on. And the memories. Was it good fun?
What's that?
Oh, I said, was it good fun?
Oh, yeah. It was completely great. I loved it. I loved it. And we played 2 shows. We played 2 live shows, one in New York City and one at a festival in France. And the festival in France was great because Alan Vega, Suicide, if your audience is familiar with Suicide, a very confrontational music. And Alan was an amazing performer. And in France, the audience liked to give it back to him. So it was like he was confronting the audience and they were confronting him back. So there was this energy that was amazing. I don't think I've ever been on stage with anything like that, where the audience is like I mean, it's great. It was great.
Yes, I
I
did an
loved it.
interview with his, I think, wife, who did a book kind of last year, actually, and also his brother a few years ago, who, yes, was a very cool dude. So, yeah, amazing kind of band, really. So then, sort of coming up to the present day in this decade. So when did you start thinking, I'm going to do a podcast? Did that come out of the radio station or through some other collaboration?
No, actually, it came about because my co-host Laura Pocadello, she runs the Nashville office of Sun Records. So the entire Sun catalog, Roy Orbison, Johnny
Yes.
Cash, you name it, Charlie Rich, they have all that, but they also are signing new acts and they have new records out, and they won a Grammy this year for Best Blues Album, and I think they won a Grammy last year for something too. So she's running that office, and I was brought in to curate a collection for the 70th birthday of Sun Records. And Laura and I met and got to know each other, and then we started talking about music, and it was, wild how similar our tastes were. But then we discovered that we were both Sonny Bono fans, big time Sonny Bono fans, and not in an ironic way, like really in love with his music and his history. And you don't meet many people like that. So we realized we need to work on something together, either a reissue label. We knew we were meant to work on a project together. We just didn't know what it was. And the podcast became the natural choice.
Yes. And then but then the format, how did you think, right, we need to have a USP to this? It can't be the same as all the other podcasts. Who came up with this idea straight from the hat?
Well, it was very natural. We didn't want to do anything scripted. We didn't want to do anything that was a lot of hard work. I mean, it's like
Eddie planning.
I describe myself as a lazy workaholic. Like I
Yes.
need to be working and I need to be working with creative stuff. But when I look at a job and it looks like I'm going to have to learn a whole lot or whatever, I suddenly am very lazy. And so if we were going to do something together, it had to be fun. She has a lot of responsibility at her job, and I have things going on. So if we're going to work on something together, it's really got to be like a vacation, you know. And luckily, when she pulls a name out of the hat and I start talking, and then she starts talking too, we have a show. And that's about as much planning as we put into it.
Excellent. That's a very
And
good.
we've been,
So
we've been getting a
did she come
great
up with the
response.
idea that I'm going to put all these names in, but obviously you've worked with them and you have history, and then that's the way you're going to do it? Did you say you've got 12 names in this hat, or are there more now?
No, 12 episodes with like 3 names in each episode.
Right, and then you put it together. Fantastic. So then when
Yeah,
did
we're
you
gonna
launch it?
January 22nd.
Right, so there you go. So what have you got so far? Because I did have a look actually on Spotify. You've done 4, haven't you, I think?
Yeah, the
So there's
4th episode just came out.
Yes. And how's it been going? Have you enjoyed it?
Oh, I love it. And we have an audience. Immediately, we have an audience, and we're getting really good reviews. Like, we haven't really got any mediocre reviews. Everyone who has taken the time to listen to it is in love with it, and they're kind of impatient about the next episode coming. Like, they want, they want more. So we're onto something good. We're definitely
Yes.
onto something good.
And on the recording front, are you in your separate places, or do you manage to sort of get together to record these?
No, she's in Nashville,
Yes.
and I'm out here in the Mojave Desert.
That's very groovy, actually.
But modern technology, I mean, you're not in the Mojave Desert right now, and I'm not in
No,
England.
this is
So.
true. I have to say, Zoom has been quite a revolutionary thing, really, hasn't it? And sort of the ability to do the maths on time zones. But actually, it's been quite incredible because it just brings things together, and you can just have the most amazing connections and sort of conversations. And you think this would have cost a fortune and been impossible a decade ago.
Oh
And
my
now
God.
It's just kind of brought it together, actually. So with this year, you've got the podcast. Do you have any live shows as well, sort of planned, and any more albums coming out?
Well, I play all the time here in California. I play in bars and coffee houses. I like being on stage. I probably play like 2 or 3 gigs per month, maybe 4 gigs per month. And it doesn't matter to me whether 8 people show up or 3,000. I just really like the interaction between a performer and an audience. Yeah, I've been doing this since I was 12 years old, so it's
Yes.
part of who I am. Like I'm happier when I'm interacting with music fans and I'm in an environment where people are there to hear music and I'm there to play music, and there's like a communication between us. I love it. I love it. And it doesn't, none of these things are about a career. This is not really about a career. This is about, like someone once said to me about, like, I need to play music. I have to play music or I'll die. And he said, to live, a rat must chew. And that's exactly what's going on here. I need to keep chewing.
Yes, absolutely. And your last album, The World Of, that was 3-4 years ago. Have you got anything in the pipeline coming out in the next year or two?
I do. I recorded an album with a band called Deer Tick. They're a very popular indie rock band in America. And we recorded an album where I'm singing my songs and they're backing me up, and that comes out in October. And I'll be probably going out on the road to promote that record when it comes out.
Fantastic. It's a very busy time. Well, look,
Yeah.
Ben, this has been amazing. Well, thank you for your time. And I'm glad that the freeze didn't happen for too long. But yes, I'll be very curious and excited to kind of hear the other episodes that are coming out. So you've done 4. Did you say you're going to do, am I right in saying you're going to do 12 and then probably more later on in the year?
Well, we recorded 12 episodes. And we figure, let's wait and see if people like it. And if people don't like it, then there will only be 12 episodes. But we're definitely going to keep going because we are we're really getting a good following, and it's really been satisfying. It's really been great because music lovers, we need each other. We really need each other, and anything you can listen to that makes you feel like your passion for music is understood by another human being is a good thing.
Yes.
And it looks like we hit on something that falls in that category. So I love it. I love it. It's something that we're definitely going to keep doing.
It's very stimulating, actually. It's good. And I'm always finding, one thing leads to another, and then you kind of go to another avenue, and it's just kind of curious and fascinating. And, it's nothing like sort of listening to new music, even if it's from, I don't know, 80 years ago, 50 years, 10 years ago. It's just always kind of curious. But it's also interesting hearing the artist as well. So it's been brilliant. But look, thank you for your time. This has been incredible. And I'll keep in touch with Howard. I think it was Howard, wasn't it?
Yes.
Our
Yes.
sort of matchmaker. And yes, but look, good luck. And yes, have a lovely day. I'm going to go to bed. Okay. Thanks, Ben.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
End. And that was me in conversation with Ben Vaughn. This has been the C86 Show, David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on any of the social media platform sites. Just do C86 Show. All these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. True. Have a great week. Stay safe.